Ready? Bonnie, you ready? He's zooming in. Should be on there. Hello? Okay, there we go. All right, I'd like to call the order of the Gateway Board of School Directors Study Session Meeting for Tuesday, September 14th, 2021. Can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Mrs. Ishak, can you please do roll call?
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Here.
Mrs. Delaney.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Gottman.
Here.
Mr. McIntyre.
Here.
Ms. Mungo.
Here.
Mr. Ritter.
Here.
Mrs. Warning. Here. Mr. Williams.
Okay, we're going to move on to number 4, which is comments from residents on agenda items. And tonight we have 2 people that have signed up. You will be granted 5 minutes to speak as always. And the first person up is Mr. Gary DiLorenzo.
Good evening, everyone. Just for the record, it's Dr. Gary DiLorenzo. My mother would not feel comfortable if I didn't make that statement. I'm here tonight. I'm from 451 Colonial Drive in Monroeville, and I wanted to make a comment related to the agenda items on the financial statements and how it relates to the taxpayers moving forward in our district. Those of you that have been in the last few school board meetings with me have noticed that I have a position that when you look at our financial fiscal responsibility as a district, it ties into financial solvency. We have a $75 million budget, which may be the largest budget of any entity in the Monroeville-Pitcairn area. We have a 3.6% tax increase. We have a $40 million bond for the upgrade of our middle school. And I believe we also talked about in our last few school board meetings on how we're looking to address how do we help our students back into the classroom pick up that lost content knowledge that they experienced over the last year and a half. I think we all want what's best for the kids, and we're all looking for student success. We talked about, but how do you get there? How do you get there? One of the areas that I wanted to talk through tonight was especially the one item that catches my attention now that I have a physical copy of the agenda program relates to the resolution on section G that comes up, that's in your agenda item tonight. So here's the point of discussion that I wanted to bring up to this board and to the taxpayers, and it relates to this idea. Over the next 3 to 4 months, we do have a board here of individuals that they do have the authority to make a decision on a direction of this school district related to how to use our funds, how to have fiscal solvency, how do we address lost content for our students. I come from a background and a belief our money should be going towards directly to students, teachers, social workers, tutors, help them get back into that learning environment because teachers know best how to teach, not an administrator. So my bias is bring your money down into the front line, not an administrator. Why do we care about that comment? For the next 3 or 4 months, we have some board members up here that come January, they will no longer be on this board. There will be at least 2 new school board members. Is it November? Well, that's what the election is, but but you have to actually be.
December.
Is it brought in December? Sorry about that. Thanks for the clarity. Thanks for the clarity. But here's the point. After the November election, we know we will have at least 2 new board members. My comment to this group is, if, as a board, you move forward, for whatever reason, since you have that authority, to hire an equity director, what's the measurement for success? What's the criteria for success that that position has value? And then from that measurement of success, where is the benchmark in the contract so that that can be assessed over time? And the real position that I'm interested in is, come December and January, with 2 new board members, and over time, and there's an assessment of the performance of an individual that may have this position, within that contract, what would be the recourse for this board to have action to rethink that hire? So my position that I just wanted to share with the board tonight and for taxpayers is, this board is a ship that has left dock. They have the authority to make decisions over the next few months. If the equity director does materialize, I ask this board to consider within that contract content that basically lends itself on measurements for success, some assessments and outcomes to share or at least evaluate the value added of that position. And if there's, whatever the reasons are, that you might want to rethink that hire and think about some alternative solutions, let the contract have that content so that next board can reevaluate that situation. I thank you for the opportunity to say a few words, and as a candidate in the fall, I look forward to your support. DiLorenzoSchoolBoard.com. Take a look at what my website's all about. You might like what you see. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. DiLorenzo. Before I forget, I do want to put off record that we were in executive this evening until about 7:25 regarding personnel and litigation, so I have that on the record. And our second person we have signed up to speak on agenda items is Ms. Cheryl Boyce. Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, since that wraps up those who have signed up to speak, we're going to move on to our agenda for Section B, which is bills and financial reports. Mr. Shaw?
Thank you, Mr. Gottman. This evening, we're presenting Section B, financial reports, consisting of Section B1, list of bills for the month of September 2021, and Section B2, financial reports for the month of June 2021. Again, we present these reports this evening for board's review.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shaw. Do you have any questions or comments on Section B? Okay, Seeing none, we do not have anything for section C for tabled items, so we're going to move on to section D, personnel. And we have an action agenda and we have one for discussion. So we'll start with the action agenda. And Mr. Schott?
Thank you again, sir. Again, this evening, Section D, action agenda. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors accepts and approves the personnel agenda, items 1 and 2, as listed in Section D for the study session meeting of Tuesday, September 14th, 2021, specifically comprised of item number 1A, the one-year substitute teacher positions as listed. Part B, acting principal as listed. Part C, paraprofessionals as listed. Part D, substitute food service worker as listed. Part E, athletic event workers as listed. Item number 2, a resolution of the Gateway School District authorizing the issuance of an official statement of charges and placing employee number 4350 on unpaid leave as of August 26, 2021, pending possible termination.
Second.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Schott. And motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mrs. Cerucci. Do you have any questions or comments on the action agenda items under section D?
I just, yes, I just want to say congratulate one of our retirees. She's going to be very, her mic's not working.
Yeah, bring the mic closer. So that's on the section, we're on the action agenda.
Okay, sorry, never mind, I'll get there.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, Mrs. Eshaw, can you please do a roll call?
Mrs. Delaney?
I'm sorry, I did not hear what.
We're voting on the action agenda items on section D.
Aye.
Mr. Gallagher?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Ms. Mungo?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
And Mrs. Cerucci?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, now we're going to move on to the other half of section D, the personnel agenda items for discussion. Mr. Schott?
Thank you, Mr. Gottman. Again, Section D, this evening, we present these items for discussion, specifically consisting of item number 1, resignations. Accept the resignation of the following individuals as depicted. Item number 2, leaves of absence. Approve the leaves of absences of the following individuals as listed. Item number 3, transfers. Approve the transfer of the following individuals to the positions indicated in accordance with the collective bargaining agreements, those names as listed. Item number 4, supplemental contracts, Part A, issuance. Approve the issuance of a supplemental contract to the following individuals for the 21-22 school year as depicted. Item number 5, substitute principal. Approve Audrey Dell as a substitute principal at $300 per day. Item number 6, volunteers. Approve and authorize the following individuals for the volunteer positions as indicated as listed below. That concludes section D.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schott. Do you have any questions or comments on the items for discussion under section D? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to section F, the administrative report. And again, we have 2, one for action agenda and one for discussion. So we'll start with the action agenda. Dr. Short?
We're also going to have Mr. Schott.
Okay.
Mr. Brown, can we raise the microphone of Mr. Schott?
Oh, no, it's good. I'm good. I was just waiting for your cue.
Good.
I will take this section. Yes, we do have section F, which is the action agenda consisting of 2 items. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approves and authorizes as appropriate the following items 1 and 2 as listed in section F administrative report at the study session meeting of Tuesday, September 14th, 2021. Specifically, item number 1 under policies final approval. Approve the following revised policies that were placed on 30-day public display beginning August 10th, 2021. And those 4 policies are depicted below. And please note that the policies can be viewed on board docs under policies on display. And item number 2, approval of the after-school program sponsor-to-sponsor agreement with the YMCA of Greater Pittsburgh for the 21-22 fiscal year. and that is also depicted in Exhibit A.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Gallagher, and also, once again, thank you, Mr. Schott. All right, do we have any questions or comments on Section F, the action agenda? Okay, seeing none. Mrs. Isha, can you do a roll call, please?
Mr. Gallagher,
Aye.
Mr. Gottman,
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre,
Aye.
Endo,
Aye.
Mr. Ritter,
Aye.
Mrs. Warning,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci,
Aye.
and Mrs. Delaney.
Aye.
Okay, now we'll move on to the items for discussion under Section F. Dr. Short.
Yes, Schott.
I will take that. Section F, again, we're presenting these items this evening for discussion, specifically consisting of item number 1, facility agreements, the 2 that are listed below. Item number 2, approval of an overnight excursion for the marching band, as indicated below. Item number 3, approval of the 30-day public display policy for policy number 010, school board social media and electronic communications. Item number 4, renewal of charter for Propel Charter School, Pitcairn. Approve the renewal for a period of 5 years, July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2027, as depicted in Exhibit A. Item number 5, extension of the current agreements with UGI Energy Services, LLC, for natural gas transportation services through the Western Pennsylvania Natural Gas Consortium at the rates and as depicted in Exhibit B. Item number 6, recognition of district booster clubs and support organizations for the 21-22 fiscal year for those 3 that are listed below. Item number 7, extension of the local auditing services agreement with Zelenkoski Axelrod, LLC, for fiscal years 2021-22 through 2023-2024 at the various rates as depicted in Exhibit C. Item number 8, approval of engagement letter for required arbitrage compliance services with Arbitrage Compliance Specialist, Inc. for a series of 2021 general obligation bonds for the amounts and as depicted in Exhibit D. And item number 9, approval of the school bus drivers and monitors for the 21-22 fiscal year, and those names are depicted in Exhibit E.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schott.
Welcome.
Do we have any questions or comments on Section F, the items for discussion? Okay. I just have one question for the overnight excursion. Since it's taking the place of the scheduled trip to Walt Disney, will there be any, will the cost just be exactly the same? Are we gonna, it'll be less of a cost, more of a cost?
I do not have that information yet. However, I'm sure Mr. Helge will be able to provide that to us.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions? All right. Seeing none, we're going to move on to Section G, resolution presented by board members, and this evening we have one, Mrs. Warning.
Yes. This resolution of the Gateway School District establishing a policy creating the position of Equity Director. Whereas the Board of Directors of Gateway School District approved a resolution creating the position of Equity Director on May 19th. I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
We turn the microphone up, please.
Can you hear me now?
Move it closer, Mel.
Can you hear me now?
Just keep talking until Michael gets the volume right.
Okay. Whereas the Board of School Directors, Gateway School District, approved a resolution creating the position of Equity Director on May 19th, 2021, and whereas there has been substantial public debate concerning the establishment of an Equity Director, and whereas the general election of 2021 will bring new members to the Board of Directors, and whereas the Board of Directors deems it is in the best interest to stay any further action concerning the position of Equity Director. Section 1, the Gateway School District hereby stays any further action concerning the Equity Director until after the general election held this fall, 2021. All resolutions or parts of resolutions which are inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed. If any section clause, provision, or portion of this resolution shall be held invalid or unconstitutional by any court of competent jurisdiction. Such as decision shall not affect any other section, clause, provision, or portion of this resolution so long as it remains legally enforceable, minus the invalid portion. All resolutions or parts of this resolution which are inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed. If any section, clause, provision, or portion of this resolution shall be held invalid or unconstitutional by any court of competent jurisdiction, such decision shall not affect any other section, clause, provision, or portion of this resolution so long as it remains legally enforceable, minus the invalid portion.
Okay. Do we have any questions or comments on section G? Okay. Seeing as we have no questions from the board, we'll now move to comments from residents on non-agenda items. And tonight we have one, Miss Janet Kelly.
Okay, my name is Janet Kelly. My husband Jim and I live at 707 Bilberry Road in Monroeville. We're parents of 3 Gateway grads and 1 bonus son who graduated from Gateway. Thank you. Our bonus son, Jordan Landfair, joined our family for his senior year of high school from Memphis, Tennessee. He graduated from Gateway, went on to graduate from the University of Rochester in 4 years, and is currently in his 2nd year of teaching 6th grade math in Memphis. I've not only been a Gateway parent, I've tutored countless Gateway students in math, both as a homebound tutor for Gateway and a private tutor. I've held several long-term substitute math positions at both Gateway Middle School and Gateway High School, and I've also been a day-to-day substitute for Gateway. 5 school years ago, when Gateway switched to Kelly Services for their substitutes, I went to McKeesport Area High School for a long-term substitute position. I've been at McKeesport ever since. My first year at McKeesport and last school year, I served the entire school years as a long-term substitute teaching Algebra 1 and Geometry. My middle 2 years at McKeesport, as well as this current school year, I'm serving as the in-school suspension facilitator. I'm passionate about education. I'm passionate about math. I'm also passionate about the African American community, thanks to my experiences with my bonus son. I attended a summer educator forum at Pitt in the summer of 2019, where I attended a workshop on culturally responsive teaching hosted by Dr. April King and Dr. Janet Neithamer. That workshop was the best and most useful workshop I had ever attended on the topic. It was that workshop that gave me the idea for the bulletin board, which I've used in my classrooms ever since. You have that as the first page in the handouts that you were given. That bulletin board alone has made a difference in my ability to reach the African American community at McKeesport, as would any other district. When a student walked into my in-school suspension room that first year that I displayed it, he or she almost always noticed my bulletin board. The bulletin board often prompted questions about who the people are. My room is used by the band and color guard. Often the color guard would stop in for equipment at the end of the day when I was still in the room. One black color guard told me she liked my bulletin board. It opened up a relationship with that student. I can honestly say that I've had different experiences as the in-school suspension facilitator with the current bulletin board than I did my first year, when I had a few posters and many pictures from the national parks in our country. It's been a much more positive experience. That bulletin board alone helps to make black students feel more welcomed and comfortable. It displays current African Americans in a variety of respective positions. There's not a single athlete, musician, or entertainer included purposely, as they're already well acquainted with African Americans in these positions. Just last year, when I was teaching Algebra 1, I had an African American student who had been absent. Her sister and her sister's friend stopped in to pick up some makeup work for the student. The friend looked around my classroom and commented, "I like the way your classroom is decorated." She was not my student. I had never met her before, yet she was able to feel comfortable and welcome, and commented on an aspect of my classroom that would go unmentioned by most students. Race has been a hot button issue for several years now. Critical race theory has been prominent in the news recently. I am not pushing an agenda. I am not being political. I'm here because my heart is in the issue of race. I am not black. Most of you are not black. As white people, we have no idea what it is like to live in black skin. Unfortunately, it is different. A black person's lived experiences are much different than that of a white person. Jordan recently texted me a link to an article in Education Week. I'm going to read a small portion of it, and you have that article in your attachments. First, I would like to say that most educators who say they, quote, don't see race, might also say they are colorblind. To those that would claim either statement, I would say that there is no such thing as being colorblind. I would say that those who, quote, do not see race or claim to be colorblind are denying the racial identity of their students. When you do not see a student's race, you're denying the very fabric of their being. You are denying something that they cannot and should not rid or deny themselves of. How can we deny in others what they cannot and should not deny in themselves? A student cannot not see their race. It looks them in the face every day as they look in the mirror. Their race contributes to the experiences that they have as they navigate through society. Secondly, I would argue that educators who, quote, don't see race are denying themselves of beautiful experiences in the classroom. The most important thing they deny is relationships with their students. How can you, an educator, have a relationship with me, a student, if you do not acknowledge all that makes me who I am? Diverse relationships should be sought out with the intention to honor one's whole self. Educators should be intentional about building relationships with all their students. Building relationships is critical for meeting the needs of students. Even in ISS, I've been able to do that. 2 years ago, before COVID hit, there was a black girl who I saw frequently in ISS. I apparently built a relationship with her that year. She's come down 4 times this year for help with her math, and I was never an actual teacher for her in a class. Just yesterday, she stopped down to show me that she has 80% for her current math grade. She was very proud of it, and I was proud of her. Another way that I built relationships with my students last year was by reading portions of the book, The Bastard Child, during the first week of school. That book has become my go-to book in ISS the previous school year, and I have already used it with the student who was in ISS with me earlier this school year. Sean Hoggs, the author of the book, appears in the center of my bulletin board. I've included a brief article about him in the handouts I have for you. I have several tabs in the book, which I have on display in my classroom. The only agenda of the book is to encourage kids to get an education. I also included the last 2 pages of the book in your handouts for your benefit. Jordan once said to me in a very frustrated voice, I live with my blackness every day, every hour, every minute. That's what I mean when I say that we, as white people, have no idea what it's like to live in black skin. We must see color. We must learn to understand the experiences of our black students. We must learn how to best meet their educational needs so that we can help them become the best students and the best people that they can be. Culturally responsive teaching is one method that assists in that process. This is not meant as a political statement. I do not have an agenda. I have a passion and a heart to see all students learn, including our black and brown students. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. We have 2 more people. Okay, up first, we have Ms. Kelly Matrazo.
Hi, everybody. That was an interesting speech because my son's Latino, but I don't teach him to look at everything through color. So anyway, I just wanted to remind everybody tonight just a few things, and it's a shame that Rick McIntyre isn't here because I wanted to remind the community that he told a community member on Facebook to eat a dick. And he also posted on Facebook that he likes them high school squirrels, referring to high school girls. He also sent a couple of weeks ago, Mary Beth said here in one of the school board meetings that revealed that he sent her a creepy text message about her workout clothes. So I just kind of wanted to remind the community of the type of people that get elected, that if you don't watch who you're electing, you can get some pretty interesting folks. And lastly, the only thing I wanted to say is that I've got a couple of school board members that haven't publicly said anything about his behavior, and I just kind of want to know why. Anybody hasn't publicly condemned. A couple of you have, for sure. But, you know, Susan, Brian, Robin, none of you have condemned publicly his horrible behavior. That's all.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Matrazo. And up next, we have Miss Jeannie Schultz. Schulte, that's it.
No, we're allowed.
I'm asking, are you guys not allowed to speak up there?
Everyone has the opportunity to say something, yes.
No, are you allowed to speak?
Just so you're aware,
Yes,
this is an opportunity for the public to comment,
correct.
not a public debate. However, this board can, at any time, any member can, entertain anything they want with a person who
I
comes
can't
forward.
hear you, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm sorry.
He's saying, yes, they can respond
They
at
can.
any time.
But you understand, this is not a debate at
Correct.
this time.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I'm aware that you're allowed to speak and answer questions.
They're allowed to speak,
Okay,
just as you're allowed to speak.
okay, awesome, thank you so much. My name's Jeannie Schulte, I'm a Monroeville resident and spoke at the last board meeting. I hope you guys are all doing well. Mr. Gottman, these questions and statements are for you. Mr. Gottman, your mother and father reside in Monroeville, and this is where you claim your permanent address to be, am I correct?
Yes,
What is your permanent and current address?
953 Garden City Drive, Monroeville, PA.
You got married in July. Your wife resides and works in Ligonier, and that is very odd that you guys are newlyweds living apart. You have zero investment in Monroeville community. You don't pay Monroeville taxes. You woke up this morning in a different city where you reside with your wife.
I woke up this
In
morning.
closing, Mr. Gottman, you need to resign now and let someone come in that lives in and is vested in our community. You need to stop lying to the community and taxpayers. So I'm asking you to hold yourself to a higher moral standard. Step down now before it's done in a dirty way.
I don't need to resign. I'm living here in Monroeville.
What is your wife's address?
She's living at home with her parents. It's the arrangement that we have done because that's how we've been doing since we've been dating. And I swore an oath to uphold this board position until my term is done, and I believe in a sense of honor, and I will continue to do that. Once my term is done, then that's it. There's our discussions, our personal life. We have made a decision to have me stay here until my term is done. That is it.
Okay, I'm gonna not ask, but just tell you one more time, before it's done in a way that you're probably not going to like, I'm asking you to resign immediately.
Are
Thank you.
All right, the last person we have signed up here, which was Mr. Gary DiLorenzo. I know you called in. Did you have anything else to add?
I really don't have anything to say, but I just want to make a comment. When you look at this resolution, item number 1, it says the position of Equality Director. Is that a misspelling, or was
I
that
believe
on
it's
purpose?
a misspell.
Oh, okay. Just an observation. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, since we have not heard from administration since school started, we'll go to the administrative report for Dr. Short.
Thank you, Mr. Gottman. With all the conversations that we've had tonight, it's important that we recognize that our students have returned. And they have returned in person for 5 days a week. It's been an exhilarating process because for the last year and a half with COVID, those opportunities for our children who have either been either hybrid or remote have not been possible to see the entire class together. And it was truly a pleasure to see our teaching staff and our children back doing what they know to do best, and that is, in fact, learn, be with one another, adapt socially, and seeing instruction happen again. We were fully up and operating. It's been a wonderful process. I tip my hat to every teacher, custodian, maintenance department who has done a tremendous job getting our buildings ready to go. But more importantly, our parents. I wish to thank each and every one of them for allowing this to happen in an orderly fashion. There have been a few hiccups. We've managed those. We've communicated with our parents. But rest assured, with our COVID numbers, which are extremely low, there is a COVID tracker on our website. We currently have less than five total cases, and we do not have students quarantined at this time. So when you think about that, I tip my hat to everyone that's been involved in this process. So as always, we want to continue that path forward. I'm truly hopeful that one day we can have, through the Department of Health and eventually the Governor's Office, these masks removed, and our students can go back to seeing one another, facial expressions, and everything else associated with it. But once again, it was exciting to see our students return. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Short. All right, can I seek a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mrs. Warning, second by Mr. Williams. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting adjourned.